Hello, I'm Jim Roberts, and being with the Ken Roberts Company, I have the opportunity to speak with many course members every week. Their stories are amazing and many times very touching. As a new course member, you have lots of questions going through your mind, and we know that. You think you're never going to get all the questions answered, and you're never going to get it straight, right? Well, this tape is going to help you out. You'll feel relieved once you listen to it. In fact, we encourage you to listen to it several times, and you'll hear something different each time that you do. The people that you hear are going to answer most, if not all of the questions that you're asking yourself right now. Let me share something with you. When it comes to making money and real results, most people are more private than I ever realized. People become very guarded and even superstitious when it comes to talking about their gains. As an example, I'm thinking of a course member I just spoke with while at the Ken Roberts Roundtable meeting in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. In the middle part of 1994, coffee prices really took off. This individual I was speaking with made $600,000 in a 3-month period. As I was speaking with him, I was getting more and more excited listening to his story. When he finished his story, I asked him if I could interview him on the weekly Conversations with Course Members line so other course members, just like yourself, could benefit from his experience. His response to me was, "No. Please don't ask me to be interviewed," he said. "It's bad luck to brag about your gains." Well, I joked with him and said, "You don't have to brag. You could just be nonchalant about it." He laughed, but still declined to be interviewed. And that's fine. That's why we're so grateful to those course members who will allow us to interview them. And, of course, we always pledge and live up to the promise of protecting their privacy. And now, let's begin Conversations with Course Members. The first interview you're about to hear is a retired farmer who's 74 years of age and lives in California. His name is Max. This was a very touching interview. You're going to actually hear Max comment the reason he got in the course was because he was lonely. He didn't have anything to do. The story, however, has a fine ending, and I want you to now meet my newfound friend, Max. Hi, Max.
Yeah,
How you doing, sir?
pretty good.
What do you do for a living, Max?
Well, I'm retired now, but for 52 years I farmed.
You did.
Yes,
Now, what part of the country are you in?
I'm near Bakersfield,
Oh, so you're in California.
right in the Central Valley.
Well, farming's pretty close to commodities. Had you ever been in the commodities market before you entered it?
Yes, I was in it back in the late 70s and early 80s.
How did you hear about Ken's course?
I got a mail out on it, and I was I kind of down and out because I didn't have anything to do. So I just said, well, heck, why not I order that thing and see what's going on?
How long you been in the course now?
A year, a little over a year.
Were you skeptical at first, Max?
I've never been skeptical. I've dealt in commodities all my life.
Did you paper trade it?
I paper traded up until the 20th of March last year.
Okay.
From about the first of the year.
So obviously you're dealing with real money now.
Yes, ever since the 20th of March.
Well, how you doing?
I'm over $300,000.
I beg your pardon?
I'm over $300,000 to the good.
We're speaking $300,000. And now, was this over a year period of time, Max?
20th of March.
Okay. And you made $300,000.
I have made a little over $300,000.
It would be an understatement to say congratulations, wouldn't it?
Sort of.
Well, that is amazing. What did you make your $300,000 in?
Pork bellies.
Wow. Max, what do you think when you hear those so-called experts say novices have no business being in the commodities market?
Well, I just don't think they realize what they're talking about. You take any merchant, and he's set up down there. He's got a store, and he's got space in there, and he sets in, and he goes to the market, and he buys a stock of goods and puts in that store. When he gets it in there, he's got his money in it. Right, wrong, or whatever, he bought it, it's his, and now he's got to hope that his choice will meet with the public's eye, and they'll buy it.
Right.
If it don't, he has a fire sale somewhere along the line and gets rid of it, and so he can go out and buy another stock.
Absolutely.
Well, the only thing with commodities is you don't have to look for anybody to buy it.
You're right.
It's there.
You're absolutely right.
It's better than being a merchant. You don't have no overhead or nothing. I don't have no expenses at all now.
And you sound like a pretty happy guy.
Well, if I was a little younger, not so old, I think I would be.
Hey, Max, do you still study the course?
Not as much as I should.
Right.
I believe my experience is pretty doggone good.
Sounds like it to me.
And I think I've developed an intuition for the thing, although I have to knock on wood. I'm sure I'm not infallible. But there are some things that happen every year, and it happens without fail, and especially in pork bellies.
Do you think this is something anybody can do, Max?
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I've got a little over 45-year-old son, and he farmed with me for 22 years. And I'm teaching him, and I think he's got enough savvy to do this too. I'm really taking these courses and things for him now.
Well, what would you say to someone who's considering enrolling in the course?
Well, I would say to follow Ken's course is excellent for somebody that don't have any experience, and for somebody that does have experience. It's a confirmation of something you might see yourself, and it might be something that you didn't see. But he's been a great help. He thinks I'm a whiz.
Well, Max, we think you're a whiz too. And we thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Okay.
If you noticed during Max's interview, he compared commodity trading to that of a businessman who owned a store. And he told of the storekeeper's dilemma of buying product. He better buy right. If he doesn't, he'll have to conduct a fire sale, and he has to do it all over again next year. Max understood that and described it that way. Quite an amazing gentleman. The next interview is a young man named Steve who does work for himself in the auto body repair business. And here, you'll hear the beauties of commodities, that you can approach it with your own style. And Steve is a little impulsive, he'll tell you, and you'll also see another side of trading as Steve gets into the mechanics of it a little more than Max did. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty darn good. How you doing?
Oh, excellent.
Steve, what do you do for a living?
Auto body.
Keeps you pretty busy, I'm sure.
It does.
Steve, had you ever been involved in commodities trading before working in the auto body repair business?
No.
Well, it seems like a long way from the auto repair business to the commodities market. How did you hear about Ken's course?
Well, I got a little flyer in the mail, and I read it, and I put it on the dash of the car, and kept it in my car for about 2 weeks, looking at it and thinking, boy, this sounds so good that I don't think it's true. So I kind of kept looking at it there, and I decided, hey, why not? And I went ahead and ordered Ken's TWAPM course. Just kind of went from there.
How long have you been in the course now, Steve?
5 months.
Not long.
No. I've done a little bit of stock before, but not much, just a little bit of just general stocks. And the commodities, I've always heard negative things about commodities, and I spotted a couple opportunities that Ken mentioned in his newsletter about Eurodollars, and I jumped on board with Eurodollars and started making quite a bit of money on my first contract, about $1,500, and then I kept adding contracts about every week for a period of about a month until I had 15 contracts, and I closed that position out with about $20,000 profit, $20,800.
Okay, so let's back this up a second. So your first initial profit was $1,500.
Right.
Then you multiplied that?
Yeah, I bought additional contracts with the original 15.
Okay.
3 on the first one, 4 additional contracts on the second, another 4 contracts on the third.
So to date, how successful have you been?
As of today, I think I'm about $51,000 ahead.
$51,000.
Yeah.
You got to be happy over that.
Yeah, it's kind of startling, actually. Comparing it to bodywork, it beats the heck out of bodywork.
Were you skeptical at first?
Very. It was very well written. I think that's probably what got my attention, was that I couldn't find any holes in the story, and it just sounded real interesting. So that's what basically got me into it.
How much time do you spend studying the course?
I did a lot of study at first. I probably spent the first week completely immersed in the book. I don't think I put the book down the first 3 days. I just kept reading it over and over again. And still, when I have something that looks interesting or something I can't figure out, I'll refer to the book. It helps quite a bit, actually.
Is this something you would say anybody could do?
Yeah, I think anybody could do this. I think any average person could do this in a big way if they study the material and follow the recommends.
Steve, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it.
You bet.
Real nice chatting with you.
Thank you.
In this next interview with course member Bob, I think just about everyone will learn something from his sound advice that you can take to heart. Bob, by the way, trades commodities on a full-time basis, and, as he says, he wishes he could do it more. But listen to the story. He almost didn't get in the course, and in fact, the sales piece he read wasn't even addressed to him. He received the information by accident. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm doing just great.
Well, good. Good to hear that. You sound like you're in a good mood today.
Well, I'm in a good mood every day.
There you go. Bob, what do you do for a living?
I trade futures and commodities.
So it's a full-time business for you.
It is now, yeah.
Had you ever been involved in commodities trading before you launched into it as a full-time business?
No. In fact, when I was a young guy, about 22 years old, I was told to never even look at them as long as I owed money to anybody or didn't have money that I could lose. And so I was scared away from the commodity markets by a gentleman that I won't name.
Well, how did you hear about Ken's course?
I received, it was really just kind of a blessing to me, because I owned a mail place, a little packaging store in St. George, where you bring UPS packages, and we had private mailboxes and so forth. And I received a piece of junk mail come in there for somebody else who had moved on. And it was just bulk mail, so it gets thrown away. And the gal that worked for me put it on my desk and said, maybe you want to look at this. And I brought it home that night and laid in bed and read it, and every other page I'd read to my wife, and we didn't go to sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning reading that piece of junk mail.
How long have you been in the course now?
It was in January of 92. I didn't get to start trading until August of last year. I opened an account earlier, but as long as I was in the mail place busy, I was trying to split two different things at the same time. And I'm a little slower than a lot of people. I didn't get real aggressive in it until August of last year.
Now, obviously, you paper traded at first.
Oh, yes.
Now, how long did you paper trade?
Well, like I say, I paper traded from January until August of 92, and then I had an account open from August of 92 till August of 93, but I didn't do a lot of trading at that time.
So you're trading with real money now?
You bet. It's almost sounds, you can't hardly talk about it because people don't believe you. So
can you share a few of those successes with us?
Well, when I was a kid, I was raised on the farm, and I hated pigs. If you brought a pig in here right now, I'd kiss it. We, during December, January, and February, we earned about almost $13,000 after commissions in live hogs.
So $13,000, and over what period of time was this?
That was between November, latter part of November, and we finally liquidated in April, the last, and we were trading several different contracts of hogs during that period of time. But it was, I'd call it a 5-month period from the time we started until the time we liquidated our hogs totally.
Okay. Anything else happening for you?
The thing I like to share with the people is that we started with just $2,000, and I had to get that together because we wasn't floating in the money. And I started with that and had my ups and downs, and as of this morning, when I checked my numbers, the account was worth just a little over $50,000.
$50,000.
Since last August.
That's pretty darn good.
More money than I've ever made in my life in that length of time. And it's easy. That's what I like about it. I mean, I just sitting here in my house, and I'm able to work in my shop and just monkey around out here at the place. I've got a little acreage, so I don't have to be tied down to 9 to 5. That's what I like about it.
Now tell me, Bob, were you skeptical at first?
Well, I tell you what, when I read it, it was so good to be true, you know. And the $180 at the time, I thought, well, I've wasted that much before. So I sent it in with that feeling. But when I got the course, I tried to lay aside all skepticism. I tried to say, okay, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it. I didn't just say, well, I'll try it and see, because he guaranteed that if I didn't make as much as what the course cost me, I could send all the papers back and he'd give me my money back. So I said, what have I got to lose? You know, I'm going to make it. You know, I'm just going to go for it, just like I absolutely knew it. And so everybody has skepticism when they tell you you can make that kind of money in that length of time, you know. I think they would anyhow.
How much time do you actually spend studying the course?
Well, I tell people I study 24 hours a day, but I play 24 hours a day too. It's on my mind all the time. But when I took the course, I would study in the evenings, read at night before I'd go to sleep, you know, and then in the mornings. And now that I'm trading, the most aggravating thing to me is waiting for the market to open again the next day, because after they close, you write down your figures and you determine what orders you're going to put in the next morning, and you have to sit and wait until next morning. And so it gets there's nothing to do, very little time once you're established. But as far as study, that's an individual thing, I believe. How hard you study and how fast.
You're absolutely right, Bob. Bob, is this something anybody can do?
I tell you what, I was a cross-country trucker most of my life, truck driving, and then I'd done some sales and stuff. And as soon as I got my course, the first guy I called was a retired Air Force man and a retired American Airlines mechanic, my friend AJ down in Las Vegas, and I took it right down to show to him. And he signed up too. And now he's up in his 70s. I'm 50, two different walks of life, and both of us are just having a ball at it. So I don't know why, if they can read, and what's he say, cipher? If they can read and comprehend, they can do it.
What would you say to someone who is considering enrolling in the Ken Roberts course?
I would say not to just try it and see. I would make a commitment. If they're going to invest the money to buy the course, don't do it unless you're going to take the course to heart and do it just as if you enrolled in college and took a class, and you had to be there every Wednesday night or every Thursday or every other night or whatever the class is. Set yourself up a schedule. Take it very, very seriously, because it's an investment in your life that can totally change it.
Bob, I thank you for your time today. Great story.
I've shared it. We've got 5 other people here in St. George now that I've shared it with that are enrolled in the course, and they're all just as excited as I am. I'm the only one right here in the area that's actively trading, but I can't say too much to the man.
Well, congratulations and future successes.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy.
You know, it's hard to imagine, but we have course members in 89 countries around the world. And this next course member, Osama, I spoke to in London. He seems to think it's a little more difficult trading in England, with a time difference of 8 or 9 hours. Notice he makes a comment at the end of the conversation. If he can do it across the channel, which he called the Atlantic Ocean, then American course members should have it much easier than he did. Now, let's find out and listen to Osama's story. And this afternoon, I'm speaking way across the Atlantic Ocean to London, England, and Osama. Hi, Osama.
Hi there.
How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Just fine. Well, I should say good evening to you.
That's right.
Because we have such a time difference here from the United States to London.
That's right. It's just gone 8 o'clock here.
And you say the weather's nasty today, huh?
Yeah, it's been raining for a week, so anybody thinking of coming to London, I would hold on for a while.
Well, let me ask you something. What do you do for a living over there?
I'm a sales and marketing manager for a publishing company,
Mm-hmm.
and we sell publishing material into banks and finance and insurance companies. My main experience is sales and publishing.
I understand. Had you ever been involved in commodities before?
Nope, not until I found out about Ken Roberts' course.
Amazing. Well, how did you find out about the course?
I got some information through the post.
Now, the post is what?
The mail.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
We have to define that for our American listeners today.
Okay. I go through the mail, and reading it sounded very interesting. And like everything else you get through the mail, you tend to become a bit skeptical.
Right.
So I just read it and I thought, okay, it sounds good, but I wonder what if will I, and all of these skeptical questions started popping in my head.
Absolutely.
So the only way to take a swim is to go for a swim is to get your feet wet and take a dive. So I bought the course, and I was amazed from day one. I just couldn't let go of the stuff, and it was very, very good.
So you mentioned the key word here, skeptical. You were skeptical at first.
Absolutely, very skeptical, and wasn't sure, but I definitely wanted to get into a business because I've seen a lot of things come through the mail for me, which promise the earth and don't deliver. And I'm sure people listening to this now with us nodding their heads and saying yes, that's right. But Ken Roberts' course was definitely another story.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been in the course now?
I got the course back in, if I'm right, March '94. And to be honest, I couldn't get started straight away because I was very busy. But I did start reading it, and that was it. I couldn't let go. I had to finish everything and start paper trading. And I started actually trading after I finished the course and read everything in June.
Oh, okay.
So I actually traded with real money, and I got an account for $5,000 with one of the brokers that Ken recommends.
Right. So you started with $5,000.
That's right, $5,000. And so I started opening an account, and it was really take off from there.
Let me ask you, how you doing now?
Well, I started off with I didn't do like everybody usually does, I suppose. I got two options because after I finished the Ken Roberts course on the futures, I went into the options course, which is also very good. And I went and got options on live cattle.
Right. And
I started off, and I think I made, as far as I can remember now, about $800 on the options.
Right.
And I ended up buying two future contracts in live cattle, making $2,800 there, and I had a feeder cattle making $3,800 there.
Wow! Now, what time period was this? How long did it take you to actually make this money?
No more than 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks to 2 months max.
So that works out to about $5,800, something like that.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, I was really up in profits very quickly, and that's just by simply following what Ken teaches in his course. And, everybody thinks making money is complicated. It is in simple steps that you follow. You follow the course through, and it works. And it really worked. And I was just like, wow, I'm on something good. And now I'm holding, I was holding 10 contracts, but the corn market has sort of gone down a bit. I'm now on 7 contracts in the corn market. I haven't lost any money. I still got my trading capital, which I started with, and in fact, I could be on to $15,000 or $20,000 by the time the market moves up in the corn. So I'm heavy in one market, but that's the way I choose to trade. Everybody trades in their own way, but anybody listening to this now, I would recommend Ken Roberts' course 150%.
Well, I can tell you this: you have the right attitude about it. That's a very important factor here. The right attitude.
Absolutely, it is about attitude. It is about going for it. There is everything that Ken talks about the stop loss and that trading commodities is an art. That is absolutely true. It is an art. It's not a science. And you just get this feel for it. But you show me a business that can give the returns, okay, that the Ken Roberts business does, and I'll stop trading, because I'm very sure that the Ken Roberts course is about the only business that proves, that you can make money in your part-time. So really, I've been trading for a short while, and I'm nearly maybe double, trebling my money.
Well, that is excellent. Osama, I don't know how the British press portrays commodities or not, but over here in America, the so-called experts, as we say, the press people and people like that, they say novices have no business being in commodities, or only the big boys should be in the markets, or it's way too risky. What do you think when you hear something like that?
I don't believe in that. I don't listen to that. Even if the market is moving. Let's tell you a little story. I was in the bean oil market, and I bought at 24.15, and Ken hadn't even bought into that market yet. And as soon as I bought, the price dropped to 23.02, and I was like 4 points away from my stop loss. Now, people at that stage would have either said forget it or just sell and let's just think of something else. I waited. Okay, here's a person who's a novice. I'm a novice. No matter what people say, no matter how much money I make, even if I make $100,000 tomorrow, I'm still a novice because I'm new at this. Okay.
Right.
Sure, I made some losses, but my gains are way beyond what I lost. But with the bean oil, when I was 4 points away from my stop loss, I waited. I was patient, which pays. From what I'd been told in the Ken Roberts course, I knew that this price had to move. Okay, when I wasn't sure, whether I'd still be in the market, I wasn't sure. It doesn't matter. I stayed. I waited, and I sold. I sold 2 of my contracts at 23.50, and kept 2 contracts because I had 4 in total. So I had 2 contracts at 23.50, and it's still rising. The price was still rising, and I liquidated at 25.80, making a total profit on each contract of $990. That doesn't include the margin I put in there. $990. That's nearly $2,000 I made just by being patient.
Fantastic.
So it works. Novice or no novice, you can do it. All you have to do is follow the simple tasks. I never thought I'd be here today on tape. If I can do it halfway across the channel, I should say the Atlantic, you guys in the States should be, able to do it. No, there's no two ways about that. And I think that definitely this course needs to, a lot more people need to get into it. A lot more people need to know about it because it's the number one thing.
Well, Osama, I thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
And many future continued successes to you.
Yes, of course.
And thanks for chatting with me.
No problem. Thank you.
Now, this next course member, Linda, you'll hear a very conservative lady, but quite pleased with the results she's getting. You'll also hear her mention a subject close and favorite to Ken's, and that is the psychological aspect of trading in the financial markets. And in fact, in all of life. That is, the psychology behind it is more important and actually determines the results that we get. So listen very closely as Linda explains what she found so valuable in the Ken Roberts course. So, Linda, what do you do for a living?
I'm a homemaker.
A big job.
Yes.
Linda, as a homemaker, had you ever been involved in commodities before?
No, never.
How did you get involved, and how did you hear about Ken's course?
I received a brochure in the mail, and I read it, and I thought it sounded very interesting, but I thought, I don't know anything about what he's talking about, and could I possibly do it? And he sounded very sincere in the booklet, and I thought he really wanted to help people. And when I sent for the materials and heard the tape of conversations with course members, that really made me believe that I could do it as well. That I thought if they can do it, I can do it too, and I just decided that I was going to do it and be successful at it.
How long have you been in Ken's course?
I received the materials at the end of February of this year, and I started paper trading about a week or two later, and then I paper traded for a month, and then I decided to get my feet wet, and I've done quite well, I think, since I started.
So you are trading with real money now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and how well have you been doing?
Well, I've done very well. My last trade, I netted $1,500 in just 1 week.
$1,500 in 1 week?
Yes.
Well, that's very respectable.
Yeah, I thought so.
And you're continuing now?
Yes, I am.
And how's that working for you?
Good. I just feel that this is a wonderful opportunity for people because I never would have thought of getting into this if I hadn't heard of Ken Roberts.
You had to be skeptical at first.
I was skeptical at first, but when I read the material and I felt that Ken was very sincere and that he really wanted to help people be financially independent, and I thought that I would just give it a whirl. And I just believe if you believe that you can do something and you stick to it, that you can do it and you can be successful.
Do you have a set discipline that you use to study?
Well, in the beginning I did. I was so excited about it that I spent a better part of the day doing it. But now I've kind of tapered off a bit. But I'd say I spend about half an hour to an hour, on the average, I would say, each day, going over my charts and just studying.
Do you feel this is something anybody can do, Linda?
Yes, definitely.
And what would you say to someone who is considering enrolling in the Ken Roberts course?
I would say go for it. I knew that he really cared about people because I'm on a spiritual path myself and was before I got the information in the mail. So, and that really made me say, hey, he's really for real, because if he's following his principles, then I know he's, a great guy. As I said, I'm a homemaker, and I didn't know that I could do something like this, and I'm so glad that I tried it because it's given me a lot of confidence in myself.
Please fast forward and turn Conversations with Course members over now. Interview with Bob, who is a small businessman and self-described as retired, who is finding a new life in the commodity markets, and he also dispels that myth average people cannot get rich quick. Well, let's join Bob and hear his success story. Bob, one of the most commonly asked questions from other Ken Roberts course members is they want to know if successful investors just like yourself had ever been involved in commodities before.
Yeah, just in one instance about 25 years ago.
So you tried commodities about 25 years ago. What do you do for a living now, Bob?
I am a small businessman, semi-retired.
Bob, there's one question I always like to ask course members, and that is, how did you find out about the Ken Roberts course?
Through a direct mail piece that you sent me.
Okay, you responded to our direct mail piece, you enrolled in the course, and presently, how long have you been active in the Ken Roberts course?
I've been in the course since about January.
How long did you paper trade? And did you paper trade at first before you started?
Yes, I paper traded for about 3 months.
And I understand you were trading real money at this time.
Yes.
And how's it been going for you?
Well, and in about 3 weeks, I made in excess of $70,000.
You made $70,000 in 3 weeks?
Yes.
Wow, that is something.
If you'd like to verify it, you're welcome to it.
Well, that is absolutely great. How much time do you spend studying the course?
I studied the course extensively. I generally spent an hour or so every morning and then some free time in the afternoon and while I was paper trading. But since then, I've tried to learn more about the commodity market, the library, books, etc.
What would you say to someone who's possibly considering enrolling in the course? And would you recommend the Ken Roberts course?
Look, inside of 3 weeks, I made $70,000. Figure it out. Sincerely, no. I think the course really got me started onto something. I had one foray into commodities, as I mentioned, over 20 years ago, where I made a little bit of money, but I didn't think too much about it, and I simply forgot about commodity trading until I received this. I was intrigued by the literature you sent me initially, and I decided that I'd take a whack at it. I followed through on everything that you had in the TWAMPA manual, and I tried to do some education of my own wherever I could, just to get as much background. Much of it simply verified what the course had told me. And I got into it with discipline, and I hit a big move in coffee. And the coffee went from 80 cents a pound to 126.5 before I got out.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for sharing a few moments with me today, and congratulations.
Well, thank you guys for getting me started.
In this next interview with course member Paul, he tells us he was born and raised in real estate. And you know that was Ken's background, too. And I know Ken oftentimes says what a relief it is to have to rely on real estate for your income and not have to deal with all the negatives associated with real estate. And if you're in real estate, you know what a slump it's in right now. Another point Paul brings up that Ken especially appreciates is the fact that fathers and sons, mothers and daughters and families can all do this. We have course members who are age 16 all the way up into their 90s. In fact, the next course member you'll be listening to is introducing the Ken Roberts course to his 16-year-old son. Let's now listen to Paul.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Very good.
Paul, what do you do for a living?
Well, I was born and raised in the real estate market, in multifamily rental units for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I end up putting in about 60 hours a week at it.
My word. Well, Paul, have you ever been involved in the commodities market before?
Never.
How in the world did you get involved, and how'd you hear about Ken's course?
Well, I got a flyer in the mail back late last year, and I started with The Rich Man's Secret. And after I read that book and hashed it over for a month or so, I decided to try the Twampum One. And once I started the Twampum One, I started the paper trading right away. And I was at that, I would say, about 6 weeks before I actually started in the commodities.
So how long have you been in the course now?
Well, I opened my trading account January 28th.
How long did you paper trade before you actually jumped out in the market?
It was a maximum of 6 weeks.
Well, that's pretty normal. That's just about normal.
Yeah.
So you're trading with real money now?
Yes.
Have any successes?
Just a little bit. I've got a net profit so far since I opened my account at the end of January of just under $30,000.
Okay, $30,000.
Right.
And that's net profit.
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, I have a long list. I've been in and out. I've had a few losses, and I've had a lot of gains. Most of the gains was in the Eurodollars, crude oil, unleaded gas, some in sugar, some in bean meal. Made some money in hogs, lost some money in hogs.
But we look at it, $30,000 in profits.
Right.
From the real estate business to the commodities business, were you skeptical at first?
Well, not really. Not once I took the course. I kind of understood it, and it was a matter of learning where to put your stops. And the real secret of it is to limit your losses and let your profits run.
How much time do you actually spend studying the course?
Well, at one time I was spending about 2 hours a day, but now I've limited that down to probably 30 to 45 minutes a day. I also now have it computerized. I get a daily download for all the markets.
Would you say this is something anybody can do?
Definitely. In fact, my son wants to learn it. He's 16.
What would you say to someone who's considering enrolling in the Ken Roberts course?
Do it. Don't wait.
Now, this next story, I had the pleasure of speaking with Carnell, who sums it all up. You'll hear every aspect of the course covered. And like me, and all who hear this, you're going to be very touched. And remember, Carnell. Hi, Carnell.
Hello.
How you doing today, sir?
Very good.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I was a farmer here in North Dakota until I hurt my spinal cord back in '77. I slept on ice.
Oh, my.
So I farmed for another 10 years under great difficulty. And finally drew Social Security in '87. So this is an answer to a prayer. We were trying to stretch our budget and making things go, and truly it's a miracle.
Had you ever been involved in commodities before?
Yes, I had. I started back in about 79 or 80 when I started having back trouble, and I got burnt a couple of times and just stayed out of it. And then Ken sent this book and telling how he could get in it without any big risk. So I was really interested. I had been trading a little on my own without his instructions, and of course I got into some metals and lost money on them. And I jumped in and I hit Eurodollar puts. Each time the Fed said they were going to raise the interest rates, I'd buy a bunch of puts in Eurodollars. I come out with about $8,500 net.
You made the $8,500 from March till June?
Well, March till April or whenever the last, May, I guess it was the last time I had Eurodollar puts. Then I jumped into cocoa, both coffee and cocoa. I hit it real big. So.
How much did you make real big off of cocoa and coffee?
Well, I come out of coffee with about 12,500 net. The cocoa, I come out, all told, I have right in the 37,000 range net.
$37,000 in cocoa. You've been doing some good work, Carnell.
Yep, it sure is.
How much time do you spend studying the course?
Oh, not very much. I get the Investors Daily News.
Right.
I get the graphs. And that's really about all.
What would you say to someone who is considering enrolling in the Ken Roberts course?
Well, to me, it's been an answer to a prayer. I'm getting a course for each of the children now.
You think this is something anybody can do?
Oh, I'm sure they could, yes.
In this interview, you'll hear another aspect of one of the many pluses of trading commodities. Course member Rob was driving hundreds of miles a week with his job. As he explains, learning to trade commodities got him off the road, and now he's at home watching the news stories a lot differently. I'd even suggest one that you could be watching too. Let's join Rob. Rob, what do you do for a living?
I'm a fundraiser. I help schools with their financial needs. I come up with different programs instead of the candy bars. I come up with other programs, like we're setting up phone networks and Christmas wrap. You probably bought some of the products.
Absolutely, sure. What part of the country do you live in?
I live in Cambria, California. It's by Big Sur, Hearst Castle area.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, very nice.
Had you ever been involved in commodities before, Rob?
Never.
How'd you get involved?
Well, I was looking for an income that could supplement, because I have to commute to San Joaquin Valley, and I was looking for a way to not have to do that all the time. I spent like hours on the road, 500 miles a day, it seems like, on an average. So I was searching around in these entrepreneur magazines, and I found this little ad, and that's how I came across you guys and said, it didn't say that it was commodities.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have sent away for it because it sounds too complicated. But I sent away for it, and I got the tape and everything, and got real excited. When we first got going on it, I got all kinds of calls from brokers wanting me to do this and do that, and I was almost talked into doing heating oil. This was back in early June of last year, and he said he showed me these different graphs where during a certain time of year heating oil would go up, and he said send me $5,000, and then I remember Ken's a little warning note there, and luckily I didn't do it, because when I was paper trading that particular commodity, I would end up losing.
How long have you been in the course now?
I've been in the course since June of last year.
Now, you started paper trading, of course, at first.
Right. I traded for the first 7 to 8 months.
Right.
And the reason I did that, after I realized I wasn't making money on that particular advice from that particular broker, and plus some of the trades I was paper trading, I didn't quite know what I was doing. I wasn't real confident, so I kept paper trading till I saw that I was making a decent gain, like a 50-40% profit on my money, and that's when I actually put in real money, and that happened 3 months ago.
So there's a kind of like a comfort zone there.
Yeah, I had to be very conservative because I had no room for error. They said not to use your credit cards or anything that you could not afford to lose, so that sent up my warning signals not to gamble unless I really knew that it was going to work for me. So I started about 3 months ago with real money, and I started with $5,000.
So you've been trading for about 3 months now with real money.
3 months, right.
How you doing?
Fantastic. I did exactly what Ken said, only I didn't get into the future contracts. I just stuck to the options.
You wanted to play it safe on that side.
Right. I just wanted to be able to, if I did pick the wrong ones, that I would only lose the money that I paid for those options. So that's how I went.
Exactly.
And I used the 50% rule most of the time, and once in a while I would find a bargain, and I'd buy it 3 strike prices or 2 strike prices away, and it turned out to be very profitable. I'm averaging about a little over $10,000 a month.
$10,000 a month?
Off of that initial, actually I didn't even spend all $5,000. I spent a little over $4,000 on those options.
So what are you into right now? What's happening for you?
It's exciting. I got in on that coffee just in time, just before it started going up.
Right.
And I sold it for 41 points, thinking I did really well. But then it went up all the way to 100 points, so I could have doubled that. But better safe than sorry. I reinvested that and bought some cocoa and crude oil and soybean meal, and I did really well there too. I made $1,100 on the soybean meal.
$1,100 in what?
Yeah.
In what time period are we talking about here?
On the soybean meal was it was quite unique because Ken was buying a future contract on that, and again I bought an option instead.
Right.
And that particular one, in just 3 weeks, I made $1,100.
$1,100 in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it cost me $340 to get into that.
Well, that was a pretty darn good move.
That was excellent.
Yes,
I
was.
I was so excited.
So what do you think is moving in the future for you? What are you looking at?
Well, I'm hoping that. Well, I'm not even hoping. I know that this is going to work out for me, and I'm right now. Even though my business is up 30%, I'm delegating that to other salespeople, so I don't have to do the driving. And I'm sitting here in front of the TV watching CNBC and in front of my FutureLink and placing orders today. Actually,
Is it watching the news a little bit different now?
it's so different. I mean, when you see something happening like with Korea and some of the other things, you really start to get excited because especially if you're already in those markets and you got in it before everybody else does, like with the cocoa and coffee and some of the other things that's happening in the news. The flooding right now, I think people should be watching that real closely.
Absolutely. Well, time management is a very important factor. How much time do you spend studying the course?
I spent a lot of time studying because I was, in the beginning I thought it was going to be pretty simple for me anyway, but it wasn't because I'm really not that, I hate to say I'm stupid, but I'm not really that well off when it comes to numbers and computers and all that, but over the year I've learned to use all that, and it's quite easy actually.
So this is something you feel anybody can do?
Anybody can do. Anybody can do. That course is that. I took the Quantum 1, Quantum 2. I took the Inside Line. That was great. Great stuff. I bought that book by Ted Warren. That helped a lot.
Rob, what would you say to someone who is considering enrolling in the Ken Roberts course?
I'd say go for it. I mean, it is unbelievable. You don't really have to put out that much money to figure out if it's for you or not.
Right.
I mean, it's dirt cheap compared to what other people are providing out there in courses. They're so complicated compared to Ken's. Ken is really simple. Really simple. They use all these big words that I still don't care to find out about, but I'm sure in time I'll figure it out.
In this next interview with course member Rab, tells us that he, too, trades commodities on a full-time basis after selling his business. I want you to listen very closely for many bits of wisdom that Rab offers us. And then I'm going to reveal the secret about Rab that I learned after interviewing him when this conversation ends. And this afternoon, we're speaking with Rab. Hi, Rab.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, sir. How are you doing?
Excellent.
What do you do for a living?
Currently, I'm a commodity investor. I sold my business in July, and this is what I do.
Had you ever been involved in commodities before?
No, I didn't even know they existed until October of last year.
Is that when you first enrolled in the Ken Roberts course?
Yeah, well, previous to that, I ordered the Rich Man's Secret course.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed my whole life as far as my outlook on how to get things done.
Right.
And then a friend of mine, I told him I'd seen this infomercial on TV about heating oil for about a year, and I finally decided to do something about it. And those people wanted $225 commission, a $10,000 opening account. I said, wait a second.
Something's wrong here.
Got to be something a tad easier for a novice to get into. And he told me, well, he was one of the original 6 signees with KRC for Twampum 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, how did you do? He said, well, everything my broker told me to do, I did the exact opposite, and I lost all my money. I said, well, I can understand why you're not doing it anymore. So I looked at it and saw the options course, and the reason I liked that so much better than futures is futures has that terminology attached to it like unlimited risk. I didn't like that.
Right.
And
it's kind of frightening, isn't it?
Well, I looked at this guy that turned me on to Ken Roberts and what happened to him. And I thought, no, I've predetermined the risk a little bit. I can manage that. So I got Twampum 2 in October of '93. And from that, I said, heck, I'm going to try it. So I started off with $1,500 in November, strictly options. And I made a little bit of money, which proved to me that it worked.
So once again, you started in November with $1,500.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. Were you skeptical at first before you started trading?
Somewhat.
How'd you overcome the skepticism?
I investigated basically about Ken Roberts.
Right.
Having read Rich Man's Secret and participated in that for about 3 or 4 months before getting into the options, I had a pretty good idea of who he was, and so I checked him out in the industry, and everybody said that he had a real conservative approach to the markets. And I said, yeah, but with an 80% success rate, what the heck's wrong with that?
So you are now with real money, and have you had any successes recently?
Astronomical.
Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, besides Twampum 2, I kept seeing references. I got the fax update hotline for options, and I kept seeing references in there to this other course called Success Summit. And I called up to find out about that, and they told me that it was such a reasonable price, so I said, okay, I'll take that. And when I first got my first copy in April, I saw all these references to coffee. And you know what happened to coffee.
Absolutely.
I bought 3 options in late April at $510 a piece, including commission and fees. So I had $1,530 invested. And my strikes were all in the low 90-cent range.
Ooh-wee.
I laughed. I didn't go to sleep for a week. I tell you, I just couldn't believe it. It's like I won the lotto or something. I sold the first contract for $15,000, and I thought, I'm going to wake up one morning and find out this is not true. And then about a week later, I sold the second one for $18,000.
So we're at $33,000 now.
Yeah, in less than 90 days.
$33,000 in less than 90 days.
And then I sold a third contract for just a little bit over $60,000.
Jeez.
And I went on vacation.
I guess you did. So we're looking at $93,000.
Well, that's where it was. So I figure I beat Hillary's record.
What do you think when these so-called experts say, novices have no business being in commodities, or only the big boys should be in the markets, and it's way too risky? What do you think when you hear that?
I think they don't know what they're talking about. They're just trying to keep it all to themselves, I think.
Do you still study the course?
Oh, almost on a weekly basis, because there's stuff that I heard or I read, and then I'm just fixing to get into spreads now, and I needed to go back and review that. I also, since my newfound wealth, I sold my business. That's why I do this full time at this point. I got a new 486 computer and hooked up to one of the services that Ken recommended. And from 6 in the morning until noon, that's my job, to watch the computer and make decisions.
And it sounds like you're doing very well at it.
Well, I would think I was just extremely fortunate to have come across a training course is what I would call Ken's opportunities. I mean, I totally invested just a little over $500 in courses, and I'm to date coming up on $130,000 in net profit.
$130,000.
Yeah.
You should be laughing. Congratulations to you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You think this is something anybody can do?
I think they can if they do 2 things. If they develop a discipline and they follow the doctrine or the methods that Ken teaches, they would all be successful. I mean, out of every 10 trades he does, 8 of them are winners. And when you're winners, even if you only made $100 each on those trades, and you lost $100 on the other two trades, look how much farther ahead you'd be.
You sound like you're a very happy man, and I do congratulate you again on all your successes and future successes to you.
Thank you.
After interviewing Rab, I learned when he first enrolled in the course, Rab was in a terrible accident. In his recuperation process, he had so much time on his hands, he actually trades from his bed, makes all the trades that you heard him speak of, and in fact, was still recuperating when I interviewed him. And that is quite an accomplishment. For the past hour, you've listened to real people making real money in real life situations. Your decision now isn't whether or not to believe Ken's plan, and publicly, time and time again, Ken has proved it does work consistently. The question to ask yourself now is, are you serious about learning the skill and implementing Ken's methods and strategies for yourself? Do you really want to learn how to earn more money than most jobs will ever provide and enjoy what you do? I know you can learn and understand the course. The fact that you listened is the best indication that you want to make a better life for yourself. The message we brought you is honest, accurate, and sincere, and I thank you for the time you've given me. This is Jim Roberts wishing you the best and many future success.